was anxious. His history was he stole his brother's blessing. He had several children with women of whom he did not love, but was married. Because, of course, he was waiting for Rachel, the woman that he did love.
Wow. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Excuse me. But yet, through all those flaws, through all those things that were wrong in him, as we are all flawed in this room, God still had a plan and a purpose for Jacob, and God chose him to be the father of the nation of Israel.
Amen.
And there came a point where Jacob, in all that awfulness, had to come to a place of stopping. You see, God takes your adversities as his opportunity to raise you up as a testimony for his glory. Because in the world that we're living in today, if the world doesn't see God in you, how else are they going to see Jesus today?
Amen.
They're not really going to find him on TV. They're not going to find him on a radio. They're not going to find him in their parties. They're not going to find him in their secret places at home where all their sins and lusts are taking place.
Amen.
They're looking to the people around you.
Amen.
And in all the things I've been through, and I'm going to share some of these testimonies, people around me have said, how do you go through this, Leslie? How do you go through that? And you're still happy. And it's always been because of Jesus and always will be because of Jesus. You have to have something to stand on when everything around you is shaking and moving.
Amen.
God takes your adversities as his opportunity to bring you a testimony that he can shine through. You see, you are God's billboards for his miracles. We forget. We want to cry the blues through what we go through. We want to get sad and depressed and moan and groan and complain through what we go through. Instead of turning that around, because you see, let me tell you, I believe words have power because the word says they do. The devil capitalizes on your negative testimony when God is trying to turn it into a testimony of victory and glory. But I believe you've got to speak that out into your victory and that testimony before it even arrives. When people have asked me about things, I'll tell them what God is going to do when it hasn't even happened yet. Let me tell you, this is what I'm going through, but this is what I know is going to happen. And every instant, I do not allow people to stop and just hear my problem, because that's not edifying. But if I can tell them, listen, I know where I am, but I know where I'm going.
Amen.
There's a testimony. So Jacob in verse 22, let's go down to, in verse 22, Jacob sends over his wives, his children, all his livestock. And he comes to a place where he is afraid and he is anxious, because at this point he has stolen Esau's birthright, and Esau is coming after him and has now threatened to kill him. So he knows what he's done. He is now afraid, and he's been surrounded by wives and children and cattle and servants and livestock. And we all like to be surrounded by people and everyone around us, and we like our group settings. We like our support systems. But in most times, your support time isn't when your victory is really coming in your own spirit.
Amen.
It's when you come to a place of alone.
Amen.
And in verse 24, and Jacob was left alone. And there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. Let me tell you, it is when you are alone that you are the most vulnerable.
Amen.
It is when you are alone that the enemy comes to speak his lies of defeat to you.
Amen.
It is when you are alone,
Yeah.
in that quiet time, those lies start to dance through your mind. And here's where you have a choice. Those lies either make your mind its home, and you allow it to go down and become a part of who you are.
Amen.
And once it comes down to be a part of who you are, the word says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What is in your heart is coming out of what's called, what I call a birth canal. Your mouth is a birth canal. And it is birthing either your victory or your self-defeat. Your choice. The word says that every day that man comes to a place to make a choice for good or evil, right or wrong, which way will you choose? You see, we have a choice to take the lazy way, which is complain, and sit down and cry the blues, or the way that's a little more work, and that is to tough it up, stand in God's word, speak his word, pray, and get in the fight.
Amen.
Your choice. God gives us us a choice.
Amen.
Some of our defeats have nothing to, I don't believe have anything to do with God. It's a choice we made to sit down in our own fight.
Amen.
You gotta fight the fight, which Jacob is about to do. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. When the devil speaks, it's only a lie until you believe it and give it life.
Yes. Amen.
It's only a lie when the devil speaks until you believe it
Amen.
and give it life.
That's right.
I've learned to be very quick with Galatians. I think it's, what is it? Galatians, I wrote it down so I always forget addresses. Galatians 10:5. Casting down vain imaginations, bringing every thought back into the obedience of Jesus. Casting down, it's your job. Nobody can cast down your vain imaginations for you but you.
Amen.
That is a personal, individual thing. I can't tell you what you're sitting there thinking. I'm not a mind reader. When you're in your quiet alone times, and the lusts and the sins and the negativity and the thoughts start going through your mind, only you can take responsibility to cast down those vain imaginations and bring your thoughts back into God's Word. Only you. You see, our Christian walk is more individual and dependent on you in your alone time than it is in your crowd time.
Amen.
It's this man's job to teach you the Word. It's your job to go home and practice it.
Amen.
There is responsibility in God.
Amen.
And if we look at society today, that is one of the number one things this society is really chucking is self-responsibility. Somebody else's fault for everything. Blame somebody else. Somebody wounded me when I was young. Somebody did this to me 100 years ago. Somebody did that to me. Somebody did this to me. Somebody this. You know what? I live in a world with God that says I no longer am a part of that because God is moving me forward. That is past. That's future. This doesn't have a hold on me anymore.
Amen.
God has healed me and delivered me from my past. I'm not giving this testimony, but some of you in this room know me. That in 1976, I was actually kidnapped by a modern-day Manson follower who tried to murder me. He tried to murder me by strangling me.
Yeah, amen.
And with God and a praying mother and a praying family and just so many testimonies that I'm not going to go into that today, he let me go. And do you know what he said to me when he let me go? He said to me 3 times, your God wouldn't let you die. That's what the very man that came to kill me said to me 3 times when he let me go. You see, God can take even a man's will who has the will to kill you and say, no, not today.
Amen.
That's not going to happen. God is greater.
Yeah.
But that fear and bondage that I walked in for a lot of years no longer has a hold on me.
Amen.
I am not a victim of what happened to me. I don't even consider myself a survivor. I am a victor and overcomer by the blood of the Lamb. Because I didn't survive that.
Yeah.
God brought me through that. There is a difference.
Amen.
So let's move on.
Amen.
I remember when I was in my very bad car accident, I can relate to Tony. Just briefly, my van was sitting still at a red light, doing nothing wrong. As Pastor said, your lights can be out, you can be at your home in heaven in the blink of an eye. I am sitting at a red light. I am doing nothing but minding my own business. I'm on my way to church. I was the head of the women's ministry. I was planning a women's retreat. We were going to the church to put together materials for this retreat. So on my way to do God's work, singing my happy song. Sitting there at the red light, a young lady, 15 years old, no driver's license, no permit, decides to run the red light. Just as my light turned green, hers became red. She decided to run that light at about 50 miles an hour, make a hard right turn, and come straight into me. And I was driving a minivan that had a console in the middle, and when she hit me, my right leg just slammed into that, and it crushed every bone in my foot, pulled the ligaments, broke my leg, did so much damage they were going to amputate the leg from the knee down. So the history of that. So as I'm laying in bed for 8 weeks with my leg in the air because they were afraid of infections because it was so badly broken. When I went into surgery, I saw that saw. But you're groggy, but I remember seeing the saw, but not connecting the dots to it. And the doctor said later that when they washed out my leg, that all they needed was one piece of bone, and he could build the rest out of metal. And he said he looked down and there was the bone. So God is good. He provided the bone that I needed. So I'm laying in bed. And as we see in the Word, I want to take you into this before I start this. Jacob began wrestling with this angel. He began wrestling, and I think the angel was more God. He's wrestling. He's wrestling and he's fighting because it is alone time. Now God is going to meet him where he is. But Jacob, he's got to get in his fight to get this deliverance. He's got to get in his own battle. Everybody else can't win it for him. And I'm laying in my bed at night. My family's upstairs because I had a 2-story house. My children are upstairs. Brad is upstairs. And I'm downstairs because I can't get upstairs. And my leg is in the air. I had a wheelchair because I couldn't walk, but I had a walker because it was easier just to get to the bathroom if I did the ostrich thing and hopped my way to the bathroom than it was to get the wheelchair and try to maneuver turns and whatnot. So I had a walker next to my bed. And as I would lay there awake at night, the devil would come dancing through my mind. You're never going to dance at your daughter's wedding. Your son is going to have all these sporting events, and you're not going to be able to stand and cheer or jump up and down. You're never going to, take walks with your husband again, and you're never going to be able to stand up and preach again. You're going to have to do it from sitting in a chair. Now, I had a choice here. I was either going to lay in that bed, and I was going to wallow in the tears of the negativity of that, but something rose up inside of my spirit, and I got a hold of my walker. Who knew a walker could be a weapon of warfare? Mine was. And I got my walker, and I would hop myself out into my family room. And Roberta had been to this home. She knew the floor plan. I would hop myself out into my family room. And with all my strength, I would hop on one leg and pick my walker up. And I would remind the devil that there wasn't any power of the enemy going to be able to defeat me because he was under my feet by the power of the blood. And I would stand and I would do warfare with that broken leg and a walker. And I'm not saying that like, oh my God, some superhero kind of thing. I'm saying it to you because it doesn't matter what your circumstance is, get in the fight. Yeah. Wrestle with God when you need to wrestle with God. And don't let go until he blesses you. Yeah. You see, faith requires a response by you. And what should that response be? It should be prayer and spiritual warfare. When we go through things, our first response should be, I got to get this to God before you get it to the phone. Yeah. See, we want to run to the phone and we want to tap that out to just everyone. And God is the first one that wants to hear from us. Yeah. Because when you've got a need, you don't need to be telling everybody about it. And I'm not saying not to share it. Because the Word does say, 2 or 3 gather together in faith, not gossip. In faith, he's going to answer those prayers. But God should be the first one that you are running this to. Amen. Not everybody else. Amen. Your faith requires a response. Your response should be prayer. Amen. Your prayer brings you into warfare. Warfare will bring you to victory. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jacob is wrestling with God. And the Word says he had not prevailed. Now I want to tell you what I'm taking out of that. This was a night-long battle. We enter a battle, we're going through something, whatever it is. I've heard cancer, I've heard different things in this room. Between the starting of the battle and the victory, there is that dash in between. There is that waiting time. What are we doing with it? What are we doing with that time? Because that in between time is where the devil's coming to defeat you. That's right. We can start a race good, but ending the race good, there's a different story. Amen. Because there's a battle in between. Amen. There's the running the race that is set before you. Amen. And we have to choose how we're going to run that race. What are we going to do with it? What choices are we going to make? Are we going to surrender to the desires of our flesh? Are we going to surrender to the things the devil wants us to do, which are only going to pull us farther away from where we want to be? Amen. We've got to get single-minded. There is only one thing and one thing only. God is delivering me. My healing is coming. Amen. As I've told you before, when I would go in for physical therapy, if anybody said anything negative to me about my leg, they were not allowed to touch me. I was very adamant about that. You don't have to be a Christian, and you don't have to share my faith, but you will not speak anything negative over me. Amen. Because I knew that I knew God was in control of this, every step of the way, I was very sensitive to what God was speaking to me. And I had no problem whatsoever firing someone and saying, absolutely not. Because I had a Jewish doctor who I knew, and I would tell him, Dr. Faye, God brought you into my life. God used your talents in me for me. God's going to show you a miracle, and it's me. Amen. And in the end, my God did. So Jacob, he's wrestling with God, and he's not prevailing. The battle is continuing. You see, God, and then what does God do to further this? And some of you, you've been through a struggle in life, and you think, my God, it can't get any worse. My God, I don't think I can go through another thing. God touches the hollow of his thigh and puts that thigh out of place. Yeah. There has been so many times, this is a whole other story, and I'm not even going to get into it, when my husband and my children had a boating accident. My brother said, we've been through some stuff. We've been through some stuff. And that was 18 months of him being in a cast from his thigh to his toes. 18 months of not being able to work. 18 months of doctor's appointments and believing God to meet the need. And it just seemed like one thing after another was happening. And you just think, my God, when is it going to end? Yeah. But you prevail. You stay in that fight. You keep wrestling and you don't let go. Amen. God puts Jacob's thigh out of joint. Now think about that. What could be some of the reasons? How many of you have wrestled and struggled even when you were in pain? Oh, yeah. It could be emotional pain, physical pain, mental pain, physical pain, whatever it is. Something very real has happened to you. You are facing some very real circumstances, very real tears, very real pain. And now you are standing as a Christian, and you are standing in the face of that adversity in that pain. Amen. Pain has set a lot of Christians down. Yeah. Pain has defeated a lot of Christians because they surrendered to the pain rather than continuing the wrestling and the prevailing with God and realizing God wanted to take that pain as his opportunity to show you a miracle and cause you to become a miracle. Amen. God was in that pain because where that pain was concerned, he created it. You see, the devil comes thinking that the weapons, what does the word say? No weapon formed against you is going to prosper. Amen. That God will take what the enemy's meant for evil and turn it around for good. Amen. This is one of those kinds of occasions. But we take those cliche, we make those scriptures a little cliche, or we just quote them like they're no big deal. And yet we need to begin to speak them with the power and the conviction that they were written in. Yes, amen. And the authority that they have. They're not just words that dump off your tongue without meaning or power just because you know them. Because sometimes even when we're saying them, we're not believing them ourselves. It's just the thing we say to the people we're talking to because they expect it from us. Amen. See, this is our public life with God. But now what are we doing in our private life with God? Because let me tell you something. God's more interested in your private life with him than your public life with him. Because most of the sin, most of the things that are defeating you and taking you down are in your private life. They are not in your public life. We can dress it up in church and we can shout it down. But are you dressing it up and shouting it down at home, ladies and gentlemen? Because that's where it's counting. If you can have a revival on this floor, have a revival on your living room floor. Because I'll tell you what, I've had the best revivals at home. Brad has come home sometimes. Why are you crying? What's wrong? What's happening? I was just worshiping the Lord. Just overtaken by God. Nobody else around, just me and God and him filling me because I sought him for it. And I don't like that word I made a choice to seek my Father. Because I'll tell you, I remember the days when we went to see Catherine Coleman. Just a kid I was. And Perry and I had the privilege and the honor of being up on stage with her. And I will never forget one of my first real experiences of knowing and feeling that power of God. Because as that woman walked towards you, she didn't have to touch you. And there was no stake falling down. There was nothing phony about it. You felt this pressure coming at you, and you literally could not stand. I was just a kid. I didn't know how to fake it yet. Do you remember that? Many times. But I'll tell you, if I learned nothing from that woman in all her sermons, because I still go back and watch her on YouTube, because I love her. If I've learned nothing, I've learned one thing. It's either all of God or it's not God at all. We're either doing it all for Jesus, and we're seeking Jesus, and we're giving it all to our God, or it's nothing at all. And that's what I got from her, from a child. It's all Jesus, and none of us. And it changes your life when you start to think that way. Because you can't go back. You can't go back to the old vomit anymore. It won't even taste good, look good, be good, nothing. Because you've tasted the sweet honey that He is. And it's all that you want, and you want more of it. Because you've known it. You see, people, we got to know God. We can't just confess Him. We got to know God. There's a big difference. I can tell you I know this man. He's my brother. I've known him my whole life. But I can pick some of you out here in the audience that maybe I've never met. I can't say I know you. Because I don't know you. There is a difference in an acquaintance and a knowing. Come out your acquaintance with God. See, Jacob was in an acquaintance with God for a long time. And that was how he was able to be a liar and be a con artist and steal his brother's blessing. But when he came into wrestling with God, and he came to know God, everything in his life changed. You see, through that wrestling, God was showing Jacob his need. See, I needed God. I needed God so desperately when I couldn't walk. And I remember there was a night where my dear friend picked me up and she took me to the prayer meeting at the church I attended out in the desert. And it was a Tuesday night too, and it used to always remind me of Tuesday nights here. And they wheeled me in my wheelchair with my leg all elevated and up, and they put me up in the front. And I got out of the wheelchair and I was just sitting in a regular chair. And they had a chair in front of me, my leg was all propped up, and they had the lights down low, and I'm sitting there, and I hear the Lord start to tell me the scriptures. They had worship music on about Paul and Silas and the gate beautiful. Silver and gold have I not, but such as I have I give unto thee. And all of a sudden I heard the Lord say, stand up. So I stood up, I moved the chair, and I stood up ostrich style. I was obedience. Obedience is better than a sacrifice. And then I heard the Lord say, put your foot down. My right foot had not been on the ground in 8 weeks. Because I didn't have a cast on anymore. I was out of the cast at this point. So I put my foot down very gingerly, no pressure on it, no weight on it. Because at this point, my left foot was a size 7, but my right foot, I had to buy separate shoes, was an 11 and a half because of all the swelling. And so I had to buy 2 sets of shoes that matched, of course, but 2 different shoes. And so I put my foot down gingerly, and I heard the Lord say, put your weight on your leg. And so I thought, okay, God. So I took a deep breath, I put my weight on my leg. The pain was so bad, it shot up, literally felt like it shot up to my brain. And I sat down. And I heard the Lord literally get louder at me and say, I told you to stand up and put your weight on your leg. Well, if I've learned nothing in my life, I've learned when those waters are stirred and you're hearing from God, that is your moment to get up and do it. So I said, okay, Lord, and my flesh mind is telling me this is going to hurt. My spirit mind's going, but the sacrifice is going to be bigger. Pay the price. Pay the price, not the sacrifice. So I stood up, and I put my weight as much as I could on that leg, tears streaming down my face, and I called over Ed, a man who stood in faith with me for my healing from our church. And he took me by the hands, and I said, Ed, it's time for me to walk. And Ed said, are you sure? And I said, I'm positive. You walk backwards and just hold me up. And Ed walked, and I took those steps, and every step hurt. Every step hurt. And the Lord said, pick your foot up, put it on the devil's head, crush the serpent's head. And I kept having visions of that movie with the Passions of the Christ, where they crushed the serpent's head in the movie. And I kept having the visions of that, and so I kept putting my foot up. You have no idea what it is like nerve damage throughout your entire foot and healing bone. And I just kept doing it. And I just kept walking. And I just kept reminding the devil, I am healed and you were defeated. I walked out of church that night and never got back in a wheelchair. Never got back in a wheelchair. Your situation should drive you to prayer and wrestle with God until you find that you have prevailed, until God blesses you. You don't let go until you get your blessing. Let me tell you, prayer creates an expectation of God in you. Prayer, because why are you praying if you're not expecting something from God? Prayer creates an expectation of God in you. Your expectation requires a response from God. Because what does Jeremiah 29:11 say? That He has a plan and a purpose for your life to give you unexpected end.
Amen.
So it requires a response by God. And you walk again. You get your miracle. I'm going to tell you one more quick testimony before I turn this back over. He talked about my breathing problems. And I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and say I don't still battle that battle, because I do. But I'm still a victor in that battle. Because I am not dead. 7 years ago, I was sick unto death, in and out of the hospital, for probably 2 years. In and out of the hospital, in and out of the hospital. And at 4 a.m. one morning, I was in the hospital, and I woke up, and my oxygen levels were down to 62. That is dying. Because they say at 80, you should be in a hospital. I was at 62, but I was already in the hospital. And the doctor that was in the room, because I was on a ward that wasn't able to give me heavy drugs, which I needed, respiratory drugs, he didn't want to sign off on giving me the heavy drugs. They called up a respiratory therapist from the emergency room who knew me by name because I'd been there so many times, and he is literally telling the doctor, she is going to die if you don't give this to me. Now this is happening in front of me. And I can feel myself that I could die. But God gave me, again, wrestling, even when you think you don't have the strength. Something in my spirit rose up, and I stood up on my knees, and I had one breath and one voice for one moment, and it was, in the name of Jesus, I am not going to die. Those were the only words I could utter, but they were enough. And God sent me an angel in the form of a man, and his name is Wayne. And Wayne took me by the hands. He was my nurse. And Wayne grabbed me, and he held my hands and he kept saying, Leslie, look at me. You're not going to die today. Do you understand me? And he started repeating what I had said. You're not going to die today, Leslie. Today's not your day. And it was taking my focus off of the argument of the doctor and the respiratory therapist. You're not going to die today. Look at me, Leslie. Look at me. The next thing I know, they're putting me on the gurney, and they're getting me out of that room. My respiratory therapist is riding the bed with me, and he's giving me the heavy drugs on the way to intensive care. But I want to tell you what happened through that. This is a miracle of miracles. You prevail until you get your miracle. Amen. My doctor had said that I had a zero immune system. And a normal immune system for a woman is 14,000 to like 30,000 immunoglobulins. And mine was down to 552, which meant if you sneezed on me, I was going to catch your cold and end up in the hospital with a respiratory infection. So she said, Leslie, you need Hycuvia. And Hycuvia is, and I'm very transparent, I have no problem telling you, I take a monthly transfusion. It's subcutaneous through my stomach of a medication called Hycuvia, which builds up the immune system. And God used that drug as a miracle for me. Could God have supernaturally built up my immune system? Without a doubt. Did He use the medication? He did. But here's the miracle. I get a phone call. This medication is about $1,000 a month or more. And that's a lot of money. And my husband and I don't make that kind of money. And my husband said, Leslie, it's your life. You tell them yes. God will make a way. God will provide. We are not going to say no to this. We are going to do this. So we came into agreement. Okay, yes, give me this medication. Do this. I get a phone call 2 days later from the pharmacy who told me it costs $1,000. Tell me God isn't working things out for your good when you hold on and you prevail. Tell me God isn't making a way when there doesn't seem to be a way. My husband works for Costco. I get a phone call 2 days later. It's a pharmacy called Diplomat. Costco has a pharmacy in it. Costco's this mega company. Costco just happened to buy the pharmacy that issues out IQVIA. Guess how much I pay for IQVIA? I pay $0. From $1,000 to nothing at all. When you prevail, that's God. Let me tell you, God wants to use you as an opportunity. When I'm almost done, I promise, when we went through all those things with my husband, and we were going through one thing after another with his broken leg, people began to label me jinx. Some of my girlfriends would joke with me that I was jinx, and I said, don't you dare curse me. I am not jinx, I am blessed. Let me tell you what God did. Financially, I have a daycare, and my husband works at Costco, and he has a pool business. And pretty just normal paying kinds of jobs. When he had that accident, and finances weren't really on my mind. My husband being okay and my children being okay, what was on my mind? I'm at the hospital to see him. One woman from our church walks in, hands me a check. I don't even think to look at it. Our pastors hand me a check, don't even think to look at it. I get home, one check is for $1,500, another is for $2,500. Some dear friends of ours said, Leslie, Brad's going to be laid up for a while getting his healing. We want to bless you. They paid my house payment for 18 months. I had families from my daycare, just because I took care of their children and they loved me, walking in saying, God bless me with a bonus. Here's $500. Never did I ask. Never did I wasn't even thinking about it. But God makes a way. He provides. God desires to raise you up. Once again, I just want to leave you with this. Your struggles are God's opportunities. Because God wants to take those opportunities to mature you, to grow you. You may say, why did God have to dislocate Jacob's thigh? He did it to show Jacob his need. See, your issues show you have need of God. Now you have to choose what you're going to do with it. Secondly, I think he did it to humble him. Arrogance says you can steal somebody's blessing. Humility says, I know where my blessing is coming from. God showed him he needed to mature, he needed to grow. Because why? God was transforming this man from being Jacob to becoming the father of Israel. That required a leader, a man worthy.